going.
Okay, so I'd like to welcome you all to this special board meeting, Fountain Lake School District Board of Education, and because this is an audio-only recording, I'm going to call roll and ask you to say here so that there is documentation on the video. Cindy Herring?
Here.
Corey George?
Here.
Lloyd Little?
Present.
Brian Lambert?
Here.
And I'm Dana Greason. There are no other people present in the meeting tonight, and so with that, we will get started. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to begin discussing the process for the hiring of a new superintendent. As we all know, Dr. Murphy tendered his resignation or retirement for the end of this school year, and so we as a board are beginning that process of finding our new superintendent. So the purpose of tonight's meeting, just as a quick outline, we are going to discuss the application process, meaning we want to take a look at the actual application that's online and available for candidates to use. We want to talk about when we're going to post that and some of the details around that. And we are going to create our overall timeline so that we can kind of say when we want to start interviews and make a hiring decision. We're also going to set our salary range and benefits, fringe benefits that we're going to offer, and we are going to talk about this cover piece on the application where we talk about our district and we highlight the things that we want to highlight about our district to potential candidates. So, all that being said, I want to talk about the timeline because we've talked around it and we've talked about having the official announcement of the new superintendent at our February board meeting, which is February 12th, which means that we would have to have a hiring offer and acceptance before that so that we're prepared. So obviously, sometime that week of February 5th, and you all, you have a notebook with you. In the front of that, there is a calendar that details September through February. It should be the very first page-ish in your notebook, unless you put something in front of it or behind it, and it's okay if you did. So, the targeted hire date would be that week of February 5th, offer and acceptance week. Is that still what y'all find to be reasonable as a February 12th announcement of our new superintendent?
I concur.
Okay.
I do too. What was the, well, we'll talk about it later, but the best time for people that are currently
Yeah.
superintendents?
When we
What was the
had that,
best time?
when we had that
for them?
training with Tony, I think he was saying, hold on, let me look at my notes here.
It's honestly right in now because they'll be renewing.
Yes, the superintendents are typically renewed, their contracts are extended in January. So, you would, you want to, here is what this Tony's notes say. A general good hire date is the month of February or March. Some districts may be able to hire in January or earlier where the existing super gives notice, which we've got. After March 1st, it goes, it's a little bit of a degraded process because most people know by then when they are going to, if they're going to stay or go. And we could target January. If
Well,
y'all-
he talked about though, if you don't let that person know before they renew and they're in limbo and then they renew,
That was my thing, is
we did talk about that.
They have
We
to
need
renew.
to catch them before.
they have to renew in January. I mean, we don't wanna get in a situation.
So, well, what happens, because, let's say that typically they're under contract already, like Dr. Murphy is, where they have 2 years, 3 years, whatever, remaining 1 year.
That's
So-
true, some of them will be,
So, I don't think it's as big a deal for a superintendent, and Lloyd can speak to this, having been a superintendent. Once their contract's been renewed for another year, if they give notice that they are leaving, it lets them off the hook. The district doesn't have to buy out a salary or anything like that. It's just sort of, it's like a teacher deciding not to come back. Their contract is still good, but they just give a notice that they're not gonna come back the next year.
The only one we would be missing, I believe, would be the ones looking for a job as a superintendent for January, new superintendents. So in February, I think it's a great time, because in January, like Dana said, if they're on a 2-year, 3-year, that's just an extension of the contract. And they're not, the board's gonna offer them an extension. They don't have to sign anything, most likely, they'll just
It's just
get a
an
1-year
extension.
extension. So, or
What was
whatever, so, and typically, that's what they do, they just continue to roll that contract over.
What was he saying about, so if we have someone that is interested, they apply in December.
Yes.
Hopefully they let their board know, because then we talk, typically
Yeah.
they
We
will.
did talk
That's
about
what
that,
we
because
talked
you don't wanna surprise your board to be out looking for a job.
We don't, but typically, I mean, that would be,
The existing school knows that they have applied for the job, because people are gonna be calling on getting reference. If they list somebody as a reference in their current school, well, they for sure need to tell that person, because we're gonna be
Yeah.
calling them. So, typically, I think that information is kinda out there on an existing, if
So-
if they're in an existing school.
Can we take it to the first step, if though, instead of the hire, when do we anticipate posting? See, my thought is if we're posting
I think by
1st of November,
Right, and that's kind of what we're gonna work, we can work from either end. I was kind of like, okay, if we've got an end date, let's
well,
come back. We
my
wanna-
thought is, if we're posting the 1st of November, we're gonna keep it open for what, 2-3 weeks, maybe 30 days?
Well, we have options. We
But-
can either leave it open until the position's filled,
Right.
so it just stays open
Stays
until
open.
we close it. Or, I think we will probably, once it goes out to these AAEA websites and things like that, people that are gonna start looking are gonna apply.
Right.
They're gonna go ahead and, you're gonna see in the first 3
Usually,
weeks
usually the first couple weeks, you're gonna get your applications in.
the majority of them, I
Right.
would think.
I already tell you, we're gonna get them the first week. This is a public deal now, that he
Yes.
resigned.
Yes. it
There's
is.
already people.
That know, yes.
So if we close, whether we keep it open till filled, or we
Yes.
close it after 30 days, we're gonna be interviewing, of course, we're right around Christmas.
I know.
We're in December, so,
I know.
we're gonna conduct our interviews, we're gonna do our background research, check references, gonna do interviews
And I see
in
us.
January,
No, I see us starting that when we get the applications.
okay?
Because
I think you have to.
I think so too.
that way you can decide, A, you want to interview the person, or B, you don't. So we can, once we get an application, we will collectively, assign those to, how we kind of all talked about taking an
Right.
applicant and doing some of the calling and the reference checking. Are we good on the audio, Cindy? Okay, good.
so
When we get an application, we can begin that process immediately.
Yeah, we don't wanna get to the end, be in a bind and have 10 people.
so
to
we don't have a
research.
whole lot to do to get it posted.
Right, to get it posted, we just want to make sure that we include everything that we want to ask for. One thing that is not in here that I would like to ask for is for them to attach their education philosophy, which, I'm gonna be honest, as a non-educator, I had to Google to know it. I know what philosophy is and your philosophy of education, but I had to Google what that kind of statement would look like.
I'd also
And-
like to know management style, because there's 2 types of management. You can be managed from in your office, or managed by being out and about.
Walking
You
the
know,
halls.
how do you interact with maybe these are interview questions that we're gonna get into versus on the resume, but we're gonna wanna know,
Yes.
how do you relate, what civic organizations are you a part of? How do you integrate yourself into the community, because
Yes.
that's big. We don't wanna,
And that was one reason I asked them to print us out a full copy of the application, because it's so hard to look at online, because it's page here, page
Well,
here,
you
page.
could have a line that just says examples of community
And
involvement.
there may
Right.
be
And then
in
you
here,
can go to the interview and ask more.
right, that's true, but
and in this application, when we get to that point of digging in, there may be a place to list your civic organizations that you're part of.
and maybe that's where we have
And
to
that's what
go.
I want to get comfortable with, is that if there's something else we want to ask, we want to make notes of that so that
Mhm.
we can either ask them to attach a separate sheet that lists that stuff, or.
Well, he said there wasn't a whole lot of changing, they could add stuff.
Right. And what he said is mostly if you need to add something to here, you want to ask for it as an attachment.
Right, and I like that we see some attachments on this, because I always included a resume, because your application is one thing, but your letter of interest to the board president
Yeah.
and your resume will tell a lot about you as a candidate.
So when we get to that point, we're gonna dig in.
Application generic.
Yeah.
So let's
application generic.
stay with the timeline for just a
Okay.
minute.
So, if we're gonna,
I think we're okay to hire in February, but if y'all really want to push it back to January,
no, I'm fine, I mean,
we
that's.
can do that. I mean, it's
That's, I mean,
totally at our
Lloyd would know
discretion.
better than I would. I just don't wanna, I don't wanna miss anybody, and I don't wanna pressure anybody to have to make a decision and, you know, what are they gonna do in January? So I didn't know how that, but it makes sense. All
They
they're doing
don't-
is getting an extension.
They don't have to make a decision to stay at that school, because
Right.
typically it's just being extended.
So I'm
And
fine
then
with
they would just
February.
turn in
Well,
their
and for
letter of
us,
resignation
it's gonna pressure us too. That extra month will be good to have the time to.
to get all the vetting and all that
Right.
stuff done. Because, yeah, if we don't open this up for another, well, today's the 17th, we could open it up
I say the
before
23rd.
that.
I say the 23rd. That's next Monday. Today's
I
Tuesday.
would prefer to go ahead and post it.
Because there's not a whole lot that has to be,
Okay, yeah.
especially if we're just gonna say add an attachment.
You know, if we're gonna do that, then what we need to decide this evening is what we wanna include on the application
Which we are.
Yep.
and the timeline, and that's pretty much all we need to accomplish this evening,
Mhm.
because,
As part of that, we have to come up with a
description of our district.
description of the job and our district, because when you saw him pull that up on the screen, like one of the first things is a description of the job. That's where we can, you know, talk about our district, talk about what we're looking for in a candidate, and all that stuff. And then you saw him at the bottom of that first screen, the salary range. We have to discuss that also, and the fringe benefits that might be included or not.
Well, I like salary commensurate upon experience. You know,
But-
you know that, I know that leaves it open, but you know, you don't wanna lock yourself out.
But, I know, but we're gonna have to post give them an idea,
A range,
you know, of something. So those are the things. So really, yes, you're right. Tonight is all about getting the application ready to post and creating our timeline for when we wanna post it, when we wanna do interviews, when we wanna hire. So really, that is the central focus of
Right.
our whole night.
okay.
So we want to open it on Monday the 23rd. So after tonight, whatever changes we make to this application, I will give to Mr. Campbell. He is the admin for this, what's it called? Not tech ed.
It's,
Ted,
Yeah,
talent ed.
Talent
talent
I
ed,
can never remember.
talent
It's
ed K-12.
Okay, so we'll give him any additions that we want
Okay.
to add, or we'll kind of tell him the description we want to come up with for the intro to the job. And then ask him if he'll open it up on the 23rd. So if we think that we will have the majority of applicants within 3 weeks, maybe 4, that would be 1, 2, 3, 4. So by mid-November, we should have, 90% of the people who are gonna apply.
Yeah, and if we're not going to, leave it open, if we're gonna put a date on it,
Which that's up to us. We can either close
yeah,
it, but you might miss somebody.
I say leave it open till filled.
I like that.
If you leave it open till filled,
But we
Then
can,
that also leaves it open in case your candidate pool is not what you expected,
Something falls apart.
and you can leave it open to still be gathering.
so the 23rd and 24th of November is Thanksgiving weekend, right? And we're out for school break on November 20th through the 24th, am I
Yeah,
correct?
school's out the week of the 20th,
That's,
correct?
that's Thanksgiving break,
20th
and
to
probably,
24th, they
it's
come
probably the break for most schools in Arkansas.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
will be the same.
I mean,
yeah.
they don't all take a week off, but they are for sure gonna take off
Yeah.
Thursday and Friday. So, you know, we could aim,
We could start vetting the last week of November, first week of December,
Well, I still say,
vet them as they come.
as they come in, we start doing those things.
and it may take you, because honestly, if you're trying to reach 10 or 15 people per applicant, you're not gonna get them all in one night.
No, I don't wanna wait to start vetting.
Okay.
But
I
it may
mean,
take you 2 weeks to get in touch with all the people you need to talk to,
Yeah.
you
Well, I
know?
thought
Are we
they said
going
we
to-
would have a pool of like people that had a superintendent certificate or whatever qualification that didn't.
Say
So as
again,
you're getting them, if somebody comes in that's not really qualified, you still want to reference them?
we will, I
Are
You
mean,
don't
we
want to
gonna-
sort them
Are
into
we- I think
piles?
you're asking, are we gonna vet everybody that applies?
Yeah, because if
So-
you do them as you're getting them,
Right.
then you have to, right?
well, here's the thing too, as they come in, as we're all seeing them, here's what I would like to do. So let's say we open it up on the 23rd. Then we plan on getting together in a special meeting. It will be executive session because we will be talking about
Okay.
people. But let's say that we
Not the-
get
not-
together.
Not the last week of November.
No, I'm talking about before Thanksgiving, like,
The 13th is our regular board meeting, right?
it is, yes, that's our board meeting. So we could, I don't wanna do it on that night, because that makes for a really long night,
Oh, like we didn't have one last time?
I know,
Well, I know, but you also, you can knock it out instead of coming back.
We
yeah.
could stay in
But
and
you're gonna have
sort.
to lay out you're gonna have to look at all the apps and go, yes, we wanna vet, no, we don't, but talk about each one. I mean, we can plan to do it that night after our.
I'm with
board
the
meeting.
group, but I'm just saying, I'm just as well with that as I am coming back another night, so.
I'm with that night.
Okay.
Block it out one
I
night.
mean, just, we already know this is a
Okay.
commitment of time.
It is.
What night? That's
That's November 13th.
13th.
So we could let it run for 1,
That's 3 weeks, isn't
2,
it?
3, that's 3 weeks
So
from the
then we
opening
would
date.
privately just lay them out and say, we're not gonna vet this one, and we start right then the next day.
Yeah,
Are you gonna divvy
Divvy
them
'em
up?
up.
Okay.
so we can do that, just let them come for 3 weeks. That's not saying that we will have all of them, but we should have an idea.
We're gonna have
Well,
a
at
lot
some
of them.
point, when we get ready to, and I know we're looking at timeline, but when we get ready to start vetting, didn't Tony tell us that we need to make sure that we have some questions laid out?
The
Yes,
same?
The same questions, so
Uh-huh.
we're all asking the same question, and we're not varying from these questions.
That's right.
And he had good examples.
And
I
he had
think we
one
could
question,
use.
what was it, now, is there anything you wouldn't tell, but, you know, I
oh,
don't remember exactly how he phrased it, but
Yeah.
That would embarrass.
is there anything in the applicant's background that if it came to light would be an embarrassment to a new employer?
yeah, that was it.
He's
you
got
know.
2 reference forms that I thought were both good.
Yeah, he's got and we can, as, probably on that night, when we're reviewing the applicants that we have received, y'all can be looking over these and making notes about which one you would like to use. And then we will decide, and we will divvy them up, and we will all use the same form, we'll make copies, we'll, whatever.
I like that, because I want us, that way we're all asking the same question. and
Absolutely,
That way there's consistency, since we're all not gonna be able to talk to each reference.
right. Okay, so open it on the 23rd, meet on the 13th to review the applicant pool
Last time.
and to decide if we are, it's an up or down interview, or vet, not interview, but, you know, you're gonna, if somebody, like Cindy said, if we've got a pool that's got 8 candidates with a superintendent certificate and 2 without. Well, we know already that we want to limit the interviews to 3 or 4 probably. You don't want to interview everybody, right? Isn't that what we talked
I
about?
That's
think
correct.
we really wanna try to do 3, I think, in the end.
3, and what Tony said, 3 to 5, maybe only 2, up to 6, but, no more. So I think what we do is,
Now, on the applications, we're gonna get to see them, but we're gonna have to copy them and print them, and can you take
no, well, I mean, for that meeting,
for that meeting?
yeah, I can print out just some basic, we'll figure out a way to get that out.
Okay, I didn't know if we have to use Robin for that or.
No, I can do it.
Okay,
So we'll meet on the 13th to decide which ones we're gonna vet.
And I would say we'll keep we're not gonna just discard these.
No,
no,
We're gonna vet these for now.
but if somebody
And we're gonna-
falls out
We're gonna
of
stick
that,
these in a pool
Yeah.
and.
as like the B pool, A pool, B pool, C pool, whatever. I mean,
and we also need to think about when we're reviewing these applications, if we have someone for definitely not going to interview, we need to get a letter to them, thank you for your submission at this time. However,
Yeah.
we'll be polite, but
yes,
every applicant needs to get a letter of
Yes.
acknowledgement whether they're gonna be interviewed or not.
right.
Mhm.
And,
I agree.
yes, I agree 100%.
We don't leave,
Yeah,
because
nobody
we
likes-
might want them to apply again sometime.
Well,
Yeah.
and it's not, nobody likes to be left hanging,
That's
not
exactly
knowing.
right.
It's
If
not
you're being left
professional.
hanging till February and you put in for a job in October.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
mean, that's
and that's what I'm saying, we need to give them the courtesy to know that they need to move on and look somewhere else, 'cause-
Yes.
Yeah.
so,
or however we phrase that, so.
yeah. And to Corey's point, when we look over the applicant pool, even if we know we're only going to interview, let's say 3, let's say we decide, or 4, we still probably need to vet 5 or 6,
Oh, yeah.
maybe, depending on what the candidate pool looks like, because you don't know what you're gonna find in the vetting that may change your mind. Like, they can look one way on paper, but you vet them, you talk to references, and then you're going, yeah, no,
You're saying only vet 5 or 6 total?
maybe. If you're,
Like calling references and
Yeah.
everything?
it depends on what the pool looks like.
You know,
We'll
when,
decide
that's
that,
all.
when you lay their application down, anybody can make themselves look good on paper.
right?
Yeah.
And so you may have to vet a lot more than what you think,
To
just
get to your,
to get to your pool, because even I can make myself look good on paper. No,
Oh,
well,
boy.
boy, come on, you are good.
maybe not, but what I'm saying is, we may have to vet a lot more than what we anticipate,
Yes,
and,
I think that's wise.
okay. And
Well,
we're also gonna get unsolicited calls.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna get unsolicited people reaching out, hey, I've got a friend,
Yeah,
so,
we're gonna direct everybody to that website,
okay,
and it can be found as a link on the Fountain Lake School District's page. When we send out, like if ASBA is gonna, publish a link, we're gonna send them the link that Mr. Campbell gave us, which is the fountainlake.tedk12. That's where they'll find it.
so do we think we're gonna start interviewing mid-December?
I don't know, and that's one thing I wanted to talk about, because,
December's
is
a
it
tough
too early?
month. Well,
That's just a tough time.
it's a tough time to interview,
But,
and it may
Yeah.
change your whole timeline if you interview in
but here's the
December
thing.
and everybody says, hey, that's a rock star. And
Well,
we,
what do you, I mean, here's the thing, if you're not gonna hire until the first week of February,
Then
That's
don't
not a set
close.
date, though.
Don't.
I mean, we could,
That's a timeline. I
we
mean,
It's
could
a
hire them in
timeline, and,
January,
you know, if I
and then
interview
announce it in
someone,
February.
if I get interviewed in December and I don't hear from you till January, I've moved on.
Uh-huh.
You know,
I would say
typically you want to know something within a day or
No,
two
I-
after
Within
you
a
interview.
I
week.
would want to interview fairly close to when we're
We're
going
gonna
to decide.
announce.
That's what you're down to.
That's
well,
exactly right.
and that's what I say. So if February's, it's just a timeline.
Yeah,
If we interviewed starting in January and we found our dude January 5th,
we could go ahead and hire them.
we hire.
You bet.
Do
That
that.
is where I'm at. I
Or
mean,
do that.
Cause if we get a rock star, we don't wanna wait
We wanna
and let
hire
some
them.
other school steal this rock star from us.
And then we
Or
can
her,
either,
or whatever.
if we, let's say that we hire them on, January 15th. Well, it's too late to announce it at our meeting that night, or, after that, so we wait and announce them in the February meeting.
We can
Just kinda
introduce,
sit
we can
on it.
introduce them to the community in February. We can go ahead and get them locked in.
Okay.
Yeah, and you
Yeah,
could,
you can start everything other than.
And you can have a
public
reception,
notice.
you could have a reception for the community
It's kind of
to
already
meet
a
that
reception.
individual. And that's what I would suggest, is that we, if we hire someone in January, we miss that timeline, then in February, we'll have a reception. We'll,
Mhm.
yeah, because they're still gonna be working or,
you bet.
Correct,
more than,
correct.
maybe not,
So, with the idea that if we divvy up the applicants in November and start vetting, that's gonna take us a few weeks
Mhm.
to get through all that. Because you got Thanksgiving week, right? So, if we are, do you wanna set interviews after school comes back after the holidays?
they come back on the 8th. I think that's right. Is that right?
And most schools will come back somewhere around that date.
It'd be nice to be able to be ready to do them.
Yeah, I would say that first or second, or
The week of the
Second or third
22nd,
week.
January 22nd.
The third week of January,
So is our board meeting the 8th?
yes, it is the 8th.
Okay.
Mhm.
So you wanna wait till basically the end of January to interview?
I would, maybe
If
we
you were,
move,
who mentioned having a hire within a day or two? I mean, I would
no,
say
we
yeah.
don't, so if-
After interviews, right?
yeah, you
not
interview
wait.
and then within a week, you need to notify them.
Yeah, but, I mean, that's basing that 5th is still, like Corey said, that's just a timeline. If we vet all through November and December, and we're down to it, why wouldn't we go ahead and start
Yeah.
when school comes back?
and here's the thing.
And we
if-
can hire them,
If we
Right
hired them
then.
on January 10th, it doesn't mean we have to announce it right then. We can hold that information.
Right, so if this job posting is until filled,
I guess
Yes.
I'm thinking about them leaving like their school to come interview for.
They're not-
I want-
Well, no,
Well-
we would do interviews in the evening.
but if you put this out
yeah, we'll
there,
have to come up here.
Yeah.
all right, we put this out there next Monday,
Mm-hmm.
and we're gonna give ourselves till, that's 3 weeks.
To gather a pool.
So people put in for 3 weeks. We'll
Yes.
get more after 3 weeks, but we can look at that first pool
Mm-hmm.
in 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
If we see that they're still coming in, we can wait, and if we go a week and we
True.
haven't seen anybody put in for a week, so on the 20th, we can call, we're already vetting at that time, we can call, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and say, hey, we want to interview on,
We could schedule them
We
then.
could say we're gonna start interviewing.
right after Christmas.
Right after Christmas.
Or right
break.
after November break, or Thanksgiving, if you wanted to.
Yeah,
right?
right. We could
So
say.
if you find your person the first week of December, you hire them.
December or January?
I mean,
Well,
does it really matter though? At that
He
point,
said
No.
January, February.
I just think it takes, I think what's gonna drive this timeline a lot is how long it takes us to vet
and how many applicants you get?
and how many applicants.
yeah, I agree. But I'm just saying we
But,
can't.
and I'm not opposed to what you're saying. If we
Hire
get,
them when you find them.
Right.
when we find the right applicant,
It's time to pull the trigger.
Pull the
it
trigger.
is, and we don't have to rush through this process. We got plenty of time.
Yeah.
But we also don't need to drag our feet if we get the right person.
No.
Mhm.
Right, that's what I'm saying. We don't have to wait till February.
No,
We don't have to wait till January. We want to have this done by February 13th
And
or 12th.
yep, that's our,
So
But
if
think
we-
about it, putting in for a job in October and not getting hired till February?
Well, that's what I'm saying. So if you put in for in October, I don't see us waiting until February to hire.
Yeah.
Well, neither, but still keep in mind, they're gonna understand, they're at a job, we have a soup until the end of the year anyway. So I don't think it's
and.
the
this
same
Well,
as
you
me
know
and
what we
you
can
like
also
going
do,
to
guys,
blind,
when
you
we
know.
receive the applications,
Mhm.
we received the applications, it wouldn't hurt to follow up with a letter that says, thank you for your application, here's our timeline, here's our process, we will be vetting, checking references, anticipate interviewing at this time.
So let's
And
just do the second week of January, interviews.
Interviews, okay.
So the week they come back from school.
So the week of the 8th,
Okay,
But what I'm saying, a simple letter to them, just, that way they don't think
An
that they've just
email.
been ignored.
Email that they're not
Email.
ignored. Yeah.
You're right, we've received your application, we're
I had-
checking references,
I had thought
and
of
we
that,
will be in contact with you after we have done
and I
our,
will do that.
yeah, something like that, simple
When we
thing.
get applications, I will
Yeah.
respond to them.
That way
after
they
we
don't
get it.
think that it was lost in the mail, or
Mhm.
lost on the web.
Right,
So do we,
because Corey's correct. Let me just
oh,
pat you on the back here, because it was something I hadn't thought of. We said, you know, you should get the bulk of them in the first 3 weeks, but it is early,
Mhm.
so you may not. So like, let's say we meet on the 13th and we've got 5 or 6 and we divide them up, but then 3 or 4 more come in. We're gonna have to address those 3 or 4 more,
Mhm.
look at them, talk about them.
But let me tell you what's gonna encourage people to apply early. When you put in there, position open until filled.
Uh-huh.
Now, if you're interested, you're going to put your application.
Yeah,
as
because
quick-
they don't know it might not be filled next week.
That's exactly
Yeah.
right.
when you put a
So,
closing date on it, you got, well,
They're
I
like,
got
I got
till,
time.
I
I
got
can
3
leave
weeks, I
your,
got 2 weeks.
I
can
got
work
till
on it.
January, you
Yeah.
know, or I got till,
To
and
apply.
Lloyd's right, you say filled, and he said that
The people that are interested.
you better apply.
You know you better apply, you better not hope that you got yours in time.
Yeah.
yeah.
So, here's what I've got down on, open it up next Monday, the 23rd.
Glad you keep us on task.
Board meeting on the 13th, look at the initial pool.
Mhm.
Begin vetting. Do we know that, when is Christmas break for the school? Does anybody have that on their calendar?
I can go out here and look in the hall, isn't it on the hall?
I would assume the 20th through the,
I think they got it in that hallway count.
No, I think they go all the way to the
Do
22nd
they?
this year, I think,
Oh, yeah, they do.
yeah.
That's semester test day.
So they're only out the 25th,
They're out 2 weeks,
schools.
25th through the 8th.
basically.
Okay, so really, and most, you're not really gonna wanna do a lot of vetting or, I mean, you could, but around the holidays, you know, people are just trying to enjoy their family time, you're not gonna wanna,
You're correct. No faces on the 22nd, but
That's the
Christmas break
last
starts
day.
on the 25th.
okay. So, that will give us, if we meet on the 13th, that gives us in calendar weeks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks to vet. And then we start interviews the week of the 8th. Now, keep in mind, we will have already notified those candidates and set up those interview appointments prior to that. So it's not like they're gonna be waiting that long, because they're gonna know, yes or no, we're gonna interview you. We interview the week of the 8th. So,
Well, I'm assuming we don't have to tonight, but we're gonna have to throw in a meeting or two
yes,
since we're all divvying up to
Yes. to
get
go-
together and discuss our
Yes.
findings
and
and,
I think what we can do is either we'll do the, I don't know, you think it'll be easier to, probably with the hard copy, if you're gonna be on the phone talking to somebody, it's probably gonna be easier with a hard copy to sit and make notes
Oh,
and
yes.
stuff.
oh, yes.
So, if you have access to be able to scan it and email, you could scan it, we could scan it to the board
Mhm.
on your, or we could just hang on to them. So if that's the case, so let's say we busted up on the 13th, could we get back together on, like every 2 weeks? The 27th, the 11th,
I'll be gone the 27th, just FYI.
okay, that day or that week?
That week, I'll be leaving
You're gonna be out this week of the 27th?
from the 24th till the 2nd of December.
Okay, so Corey out of town. Anybody else know of weeks that they're gonna be out? And I'm not counting days, I know holidays. So we could, will you be back on the 4th?
Mhm.
We could meet on the 4th. We've got a board meeting on the 11th.
Stay late.
Stay late,
Again on the 11th,
yeah.
to talk about our candidates that
I'll be
we
gone
vetted.
the 18th and 19th, so if we could stay late.
These guys.
I
Didn't you
know.
say this would be a commitment? Didn't you give them notice?
I can
I'm just kidding.
I can phone in.
Hey, what time
Um,
did you get here?
Okay, listen, but I do think there's a big gap between the 13th and the 4th. Of nothing.
Well,
13th of what?
Well, we
November?
got
Yeah.
Thanksgiving week there.
No?
okay, but
Well-
listen, he's gone a week, but if you have to meet, well, I'm gone for 2 days. I can
Yeah.
submit any info if you just have to meet.
Right.
I'm not worried about it.
'Cause what we
As long
wanna
as I
do-
could submit it before and say, this is what I've got, or whatever.
So on the 13th, we plan on divvying up.
What the current pool,
Okay.
so that we can each begin vetting. And
you
then
may
we
be
need
able
to
to, depending on how many there is, you may be able to meet that next week,
What's possible?
you know?
Well, the next week's Thanksgiving week.
And school's out all week.
Oh, yeah.
So I hate to try to meet up here when nobody's here. I mean, we could come up here and,
Whatever
Me?
you want to do. It just depends on how many we get. I think that depends on how many you get. If
Yeah.
you get 5,
If you- Right,
It'd be pretty
if we
easy.
each have to vet 2, there's a time commitment there.
yeah, there is.
I think, let's do the 4th.
And if we bet only 1 each, that's 5.
But he won't be here on the 4th, is that correct?
Oh, I thought you were.
No, he will be.
I will be here on the 4th of
Yeah,
December.
let's schedule a meeting, not to tag that on the end of a regular meeting, because it may take us a while to share that information.
Well, we're gonna
So
be talking
December
about
4th?
each individual.
Yes.
Yeah, so December 4th, let's discuss, the vetting notes. And then, all right, I'm making notes here. So yeah, we'll meet on the 4th to discuss all of our vetting notes and sort of narrow down the pool. And if there have been new ones added since the 13th, we'll divvy those up at that point to vet those.
And we can always, if they come in, we can divvy them up. I mean, could we not by phone, hey, I'll go ahead and call this one.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Email, you call this one.
Okay, yep.
I would say whoever comes in, we need to set a date in December to send out a letter saying, hey, we've received your application. Because you may have to send out 2 different times. You know what I'm saying? Like if you get
I'm
that
gonna
first.
communicate with them initially that we got their application.
Okay.
So
Give 'em
you're
a rough
gonna do
idea.
that when you get on there?
Yeah, just tentatively, we've got your, thank you for your interest in Fountain Lake School District. We've got your application. The board will be doing their due diligence,
Yeah,
and we will get back to you in the near future.
yeah,
So-
or
something
within
simple.
a month, or we'll come up with something,
Yeah.
and I'll run it by y'all before I send it out. Okay, so then if we do the interviews the week of the 8th, that means, we can probably contact them those few days after Christmas, maybe, just to reach out to them to schedule an interview.
But we need to do a couple of things there. We need to watch weather.
Say the week after
We need to
Christmas.
watch their travel time,
Mm-hmm.
because if someone's coming from northwest Arkansas,
Yeah.
we've got a
True.
4-hour drive, so we may end up having to do an interview on
On
a
a
weekend.
Saturday.
Saturday.
Mhm.
I'd rather not, but,
Okay,
Well, I'm just gonna tell you, cause I got to sit on the community one, we can do whatever, but I can't remember how many we did, but all their interviews were during the normal day.
really?
Well, I mean, everybody that came, their place of employment already knew they
Yeah.
applied and had to
but
interview.
we.
It's not a problem for them to say, okay, now I'm going to
But let
interview.
me
They
ask you
spent
this
the whole day
question,
here,
but
pretty much.
Arkansas law, can we have a board meeting before 5 if we put notice out for an interview, or
I
what's?
don't think that, I don't know, we'll check, but, I'm not sure if,
Let's just pull the Arkansas law.
yeah,
Yeah,
well, that
there you
Arkansas
go.
law, but,
School board meeting times.
so,
Would that count though? Is
I don't
that-
know.
I don't know, we'll find out when we get there. When we get to that point, we will make sure, when we get ready to schedule interview dates, we'll have to all sit down, look at our calendar.
And we'll have to talk about how many interviews we wanna do in one evening.
One
One,
per day.
okay,
We're not gonna try to rush through one,
okay.
because they
I'm
may,
good, I
they may wanna see the campus and, you know,
and how are we
Maybe.
how are we gonna use Murphy in that process?
I don't know.
Okay, we'll have to talk about
We'll have to
that.
discuss that, but,
Okay. And that's not talking about an individual.
no, it's just saying how would we utilize him? And I don't know, that'll be something we'll have to decide as the process unfolds ahead of us.
Cause I
So-
anticipate that they'll reach out and talk to him since he's retiring,
Uh-huh,
you know.
so, yeah. I anticipate that too. So
Okay.
let's say we do the interviews the week of January 8th. We could extend an offer January 15th. Theoretically, if we could get all the interviews done that week.
And most school board meetings are not till the end of the month. I think that,
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you know, they could potentially put their notice in.
or, well, that's true, because it has to be accepted at a board meeting. So the successful candidate,
Yeah, and Tony did say that. He said
Even-
most other people do theirs at the end.
like if we extended an offer on the week of the 15th, I don't even know if they would have time to give their notice and have it accepted by the board. They could do a special meeting or something, but we'll just have to play that by ear, because we may not even be able to announce it in February.
Mhm.
If, you know, they have to get past their board timeline
Right,
first.
they have to be released before they can sign our contract.
Okay,
Is that
so,
what he said?
yeah, they have to be accepted by their board as a
Right.
resignation before they can be official.
Right.
Okay, so our timeline. Open the app on the 23rd. Convene on the 13th after our regular meeting to look at the candidates and discuss which ones we're going to vet. Come back on December 4th with our vetting notes to start weeding down the interview pool. And then do interviews the week of January 8th and extend an offer the week of the 15th. With the plan of announcing it at our February 12th board meeting if all of the i's and t's have been dotted and crossed. Does that sound reasonable? Is everybody
Mhm.
good with that timeline?
I'm good.
See, and it looks different than what I came in here thinking it would look like. So this is good work to have this conversation, and to really talk about it out loud. So, okay, we got our timeline. Now we need to talk about what's on the application. And you have a sample in front of you. So let's just take a quick glance through this and see if there are things that might be missing. You know, one thing we want to look for is their civic or military organizations or something like that.
We have to weigh that, don't we? Didn't
We do have to give weight to military veterans.
Mhm.
That has to be weighted in the scores, basically.
So we establish a rubric, I
So-
guess?
You know,
Okay.
so the first page is just contact information, and we don't have, I mean, this is through Talent Ed, so it's all legal. We don't have to ask any questions about legality. Even though Tony said in his notes not to ask some of those things, like,
What church you go to?
or, something about background, have you ever been convicted of a crime?
But it says in there that that's, I mean, this is,
Says it's not automatic in bar.
Yeah, it has.
it's on ours.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Some of ours
Yeah.
have questions that Tony said might want to shy away from, but if they're on here, they've been,
It's legal to
it's
ask
legal
that.
because Talent Ed has already done all
And
that.
plus, like Lloyd just said, they put the disclaimer, it doesn't mean you'll be barred from the job, so.
Right. All right, so first page is pretty standard. Second page still goes into those criminal elements there. Then we move into education, high school, undergrad. I mean, there's really more information than we probably need,
Mhm.
but we'll let them put it in there. Graduate school, if they've done that. Their student teaching. So that's pretty basic. Page 4 is activities. That's mostly, you understand this is basically a teacher application.
Right, and do we really want that on? Can we take that off or?
He said he was limited as to what he could remove.
Okay,
I think, okay, so, good question. Let's flag, Cindy, did you bring one of those 9 highlighters that you had?
No, but I can get my. no,
If we
I
can
can
flag
already-
activities and that,
The activities you're willing to sponsor?
yeah.
I mean, that needs to go away, if it can. You know, if we could streamline this, I mean,
If we have the ability to change that to,
I'm gonna just
if
text,
you could change the gray part of it, like, you may not be able to change activities, but maybe you could put
where's
what's-
that, page 6? No,
page 4 where it
4,
says activities.
you're willing to sponsor?
Well, it just says activities in bold.
Oh, yeah,
and
in
then
the
stuff
bold.
below it. So that's
Uh-huh.
gonna be so looking online, which I've looked at it before, it's
Yeah,
a checkbox
yeah,
or a fill in the blank. But if you could change that list activities you're willing to sponsor to community involvement or
right, you know,
something like that,
civic organizations you belong to, or,
yeah.
you know,
Um,
if they've been if they're a current superintendent, they've probably been involved in government affairs, Rotary, Kiwanis, something like that.
all right, so are you still,
We do
oh,
have,
Brian let her in, she
we
locked
do
that
have
out.
military service on here.
Yes.
Where is she?
No,
It's-
she's right here.
So military service is there,
Yeah, try to do.
so we don't have to do anything with that, right?
Thank you, Lana.
No, you don't.
We don't. I think there's a place later maybe to list, or we could just inquire about it. Thank you so much.
Oh.
Do you know how to
So,
use this?
So,
Dana,
yes,
are the rules about times the same for executive session as they are a regular meeting?
rule about time.
Can you do executive session whenever, like before 5 o'clock?
Yes.
Okay. Well, on Beckett, who is one of our attorneys,
Yes.
he's got a deal and it says you can interview in executive session, so you can do that anytime.
Okay, and I'll have to double check.
I'm on his
again.
website, but,
Okay, but I'll
It's
have to
about-
double check if you can start before 5, which
okay, that part, yeah, I don't know.
I think you can, because if they interviewed candidates for Dr. Murphy's job years ago and they
But
did
I
it
think
during the
you
day.
it wasn't-
Yeah, but
interview in
we
executive
weren't the
session.
board, we were the committee, and then the
Oh.
board did it, I don't know when they did it.
Okay, I'll find out.
But wouldn't you want to interview in executive session?
Oh, you
yeah.
have to, yeah.
I was gonna
Yeah, it's
say.
not a public meeting, no.
You're right, you don't want the public to sit there and.
No,
And actually, totally off topic, but when I was looking, there are states that require the interview be in open meeting.
oh, yeah?
Yeah,
No, ours don't.
can you imagine?
No, that would be harsh. So, all right, so Mr. Gamble said we cannot change the template.
Okay.
So, we can only add things to this, so there's not much. You can look through this to see what is in there and see if there's something you don't see that you would like to add. For instance, I want to add the education philosophy as an attachment. But look through, there is on page 4, there is a place for their certification, professional certificates. Like if they have a superintendent certificate.
when I've always, it's been a while, but
Gosh, this was a ton of references on
that's
this
what I'm asking.
person.
Do you think we'll get that many references?
This one had,
2,
10?
4, 6, 8, 10.
so here's what I would say. As we develop this intro to the job, which we're gonna do, we put on there the application requirements and say we need a minimum of 5 references. You know, 1 from your, current school or whatever we wanna say about
Because you
it.
remember what Tony said?
You need to sometimes vet,
So you're gonna call, say on this one, he said, you'd call this first one
uh-huh,
and then say,
who else
hey, who else would,
would
you
know?
know, who else should I call about this guy? And they give you that person, you call them, then I gotta call this next one.
And do the same thing.
You could potentially call 20 people on
You
this one
could.
person.
And that's what he's saying. You could, you don't wanna just
You
call
may get in
5
a
people.
depot rabbit hole calling.
Well, because the 5 people they're gonna give you, are they gonna give you anything other than a glowing recommendation?
I mean,
No.
I wouldn't put anybody on there that wasn't gonna give me
Right.
A
Well,
5-star,
yeah.
you know? So, yes, vetting is going to be more than just the 5 people they put as.
No, I know that, but we need to have a minimum
Of whatever we decide.
of, say a minimum of 5. I don't know
Mhm.
what this one says, but
Yeah, I don't know that it has a minimum. So then the page 6 is their employment history, starting with their most current job. And then they have, they can attach a cover letter. At the bottom of page 6, there's a cover letter. They can click on and either attach theirs or they can actually write one, which is what he did.
I'd say attach a resume.
So you see on page 7, the current generic things they ask for are a resume, a transcript, a certification.
There's where you put your
We can change that.
There's where you put your educational philosophy.
Yes, and I don't think we need a transcript. Do you?
No.
No.
What is a transcript gonna do for you?
All it's gonna show you is they've made A's.
You
I
won't
mean-
see mine.
Most
Yeah,
grad schools
I wouldn't want anybody looking at my transcript.
pay the fees and get your B's.
Pay what?
Pay your fees and get your B's.
B's. So their resume, cover letter, resume. If they have a certification, we can ask them to attach that. Their education philosophy.
I'd say that's where you would do your education. So if you want to,
Civic organizations,
yep, that's where you would do all that.
okay. Attach a list of any civic or military organizations. Would you say that? Civic or military?
Well,
Or
we
would you
got
just say-
military over here,
But that's just a yes or no question.
but can we not expand on that? If you put no, I don't need to go any further, no points given. Okay, you've got yes. What branch of the military were you in?
Yeah, do we wanna know that ahead of time? Or in an interview?
I would say in the interview.
Interview.
Okay,
Yeah.
but we wanna
do
know.
We're not,
there's-
we're not
That'd be a
asking for his
good
honorable
icebreaker.
discharge
I think
or
that'd be a good
anything.
icebreaker too. for
Okay, but we do
people.
want an attachment with their civic involvement,
I think so.
civic organizations and, their role.
Community involvement,
Ci- Okay,
civic and community, or civic/community involvement.
okay,
You know, if he's a member of the PTA, well, shouldn't every administrator be a member of the PTA?
they should, I
You know, I
guess,
mean,
yeah. So, if we ask for attachments of cover letter, resume, any certificates that they hold,
Education philosophy.
and there'll be others, we'll leave those 2 other, and we'll add education philosophy and civic and community involvement.
right.
And then,
The sample app he gave us has civil and community organizations.
where?
This,
One
that
Tony
Tony
gave
gave us, the sample
Yes.
application.
Oh, yeah, not this sample.
Right, no, the one in our notebook
Yes.
has civil and community organizations.
Okay,
So they asked for it on there.
okay. So that-
Actually, it has 2, it says professional, list all professional organizations, but it says civil and community, and it's a no doubt that it's really the same as the above, so.
Okay,
we're, on this application here now, he showed it to us on the website, but I don't see where it puts salary.
Oh,
I
it
don't
was
see-
on that intro page, which
But-
was on the, it was just, it wasn't an application.
Yeah, it wasn't on this.
It was the job
Okay,
Description.
description.
okay, and that's where we're gonna talk about
We
the
need to
strengths.
formulate the job description. So
Right.
that concludes our conversation about the app, unless there's anything else.
And I'm guessing those last two pages, page 1 and page 2,
Yes,
where they did the,
certified survey.
where they,
So-
where they vetted this person,
Did you hear Mr. Campbell say, whoever they list as a reference, as soon as they submit it, a survey goes out to each of those references that has these questions, and it asks them to complete it. So it does some initial,
okay, and only 2 people submitted on it, this guy.
probably, yeah, yeah.
Well, he may have only given 2 professional references.
Well, that's true too.
Well, this one had 10 on it.
Oh, yeah,
Had 10 references.
it did.
But,
Well, maybe
again,
maybe he didn't want to print.
again, you see, excellent, 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 excellent.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I mean, it's not gonna provide you a ton of information, but that's where this came from. It was generated automatically, as they submitted their app
Right.
to their references. So, we have covered the application, and other than adding 2 things to it, we're good with the application.
Mhm.
So we want to talk about the application description. And back when we were first talking about our district's selling points and the things we were looking for in a new superintendent, I want to take us back to those notes. Because it's 6:15, and I feel like once we do this, we're done. Because this is also when we're gonna talk about the salary range, and I'm gonna turn this into Mr. Campbell so that he can get it in there this week, and then get it posted on Monday. Okay, he can do all his testing and all that stuff. So, yes. Okay, grab your worksheets. And let's talk about, because we have to put together something that says,
Which one you got? Which one?
you know, when we
Oh, yeah.
initial our discussion pages,
Oh, shoot.
because you don't want to, which is fine, it's just basic questions. When we put this job out there, we don't want to say, the job description is superintendent of Fountain Lake Schools. The end. I mean, we would like to say something about our district, maybe. Fountain Lake is looking for a superintendent to, here's what we're looking for in a candidate, here's what we have to offer, blah, blah, blah. Apply for our job. So,
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
what we'll do is kind of together come up with the things that we want to highlight. And then I'll put some verbiage together and run it by you tomorrow. I'll kind of put it in a paragraph form. And then I'll send it to you, and then y'all can make edits to it, add whatever. And then once we get it sounding like we want it, I'll give it to Mr. Campbell to include in that job description. So, what are some of the selling points of our district? Somebody name a selling point.
Finances,
Financial stability,
financial stability,
okay?
strong tax base.
Oh, wait, we'll go start writing things
Okay.
down. Oops.
Hey, just in case, because I like I was looking on Beckett's website.
Yes, Jay
I
Becker.
meant to tell y'all before tonight, if we want to compare to help, I found the original McPherson listing when we hired Murphy
Okay,
with the brochure they made about the district, what we were looking for.
okay,
So we could use similar verbiage. If we could print it from here,
can you,
be awesome.
you should be able to print right out here to this printer.
I'm gonna try,
Okay.
and
Let
then
me
we
go see
could
if it's
have it in
turned on.
front of us
Yeah,
like
or
hard
at a
copy.
minimum, is it something you can email to us?
Yeah, I can send the link if it won't print. But
Okay.
what am I?
Let me go look out here in the hall,
Well, it's
see if you can, cause
it's
doesn't have any printers?
no, none are coming up. Save as PDF, save Google Drive.
Well, do you wanna save it as a PDF and then email us the PDF?
That's what I think I'll do. Instead of the link, I can send you the PDF.
Okay.
I thought that could be handy.
It could be, cause it would give us somewhere to start,
Yeah.
and then we could just sort of build on, add to, yeah. So see if it let you save it as a PDF.
I'm gonna try to.
Because that will be helpful. So let's keep, while he's doing that, what are some other selling points of our district? I put small size. I think that's a selling point. Y'all may think that's a disadvantage, but,
No, I
No, I
put
think-
I put size of the school.
what are some of the others?
Well, we have a low debt ratio. We also have good facilities,
Newly upgraded facilities,
newly upgraded facilities.
strong community.
We're close to Hot Springs, which is gotta be a selling point.
Yeah,
I was
location.
just gonna say that. I was asking my husband, I was like, what are Fountain Lake's selling points, you know? And he was like, well, Hot Springs is a great place to live.
Well,
I mean,
it
if you
is.
got somebody that doesn't
Well,
live
it's-
here,
it's
it's a great place to
Central
come.
Arkansas is a great place to live with the lakes,
Yeah.
tourism, recreation.
Absolutely.
To the superintendent, could we mention something like, is there something, I don't know, maybe about our teachers? Or do most of them have master's degrees? Is there a high percentage of educated teacher? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
I
that
don't
would be
know.
nice to know as a superintendent coming in,
Is that
what
something,
that looks like.
See if that comes through in a minute to y'all.
without getting into specifics?
Yes, I
Yeah,
believe I
that's
just
fifty
got it.
percent of our teachers
I
are.
think on our school, my school info, we might could pull that up,
See, it talks about
And
community.
see.
I think it does.
list the percentage of teachers with a higher ed degree.
Oh, I like that, just the
Okay.
demographics of the district.
Well, we paid 10 grand for it, so they're like.
We serve an area of 186 square miles located northeast of the city of Hot Springs.
Yeah.
Which supports a year-round population of approximately 50,000.
Washita Mountain.
We're nestled in the Ouachita Mountains. Many cultural colleges, universities, state capital located in Little Rock.
Which, okay, that begs the question, are we gonna advertise out of state?
Mm.
No, I think this here, if somebody from out of state wants to look for a job, they'll find these websites.
Okay,
Yeah, they're gonna go to that AAEA
Yeah.
anyway if they're looking.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. We don't need to go out and advertise, cause they're gonna find these websites. If
I
they,
don't, and I know it listed something about Little Rock being the capital, and I'm like,
What
we
about
probably
the,
don't need to include something like that, cause
See,
most of our candidates are gonna be.
what about the AASA? Would it be on there?
A-
How consistent the board was at the
Hey,
time.
what?
yeah,
AASA. You ever heard of that, Lloyd?
what's that?
AASA,
Oh,
the School
that's,
Superintendent Association?
Arkansas Association of School Superintendents.
Is it Arkansas Association?
or
I was guessing it was, but it doesn't say Arkansas. It just says,
AASA,
Arkansas Association of School.
but this is not just, this is not, like, I just looked up stuff and
National School,
this is a job in Pennsylvania,
oh, well,
but it
then,
come up under AASA.
yeah, I'm not for sure what AASA is.
it's some kind of superintendent.
There's a National School Boards Association.
And Tony will put that, he'll put it down on Arkansas School Board Association,
I think you stick with
just locally.
what ours is gonna default to, which is the administrator site. Tony's gonna put it out on the board
Mhm.
site.
And,
You know,
also,
this PDF that,
Dawson has somewhere they can publish it too.
That's good, isn't it?
Oh, it's real good. It's, the PDF has a good vision, and, you know, we're looking for an academic instructional leader who will actively provide feedback in a constructive manner to the staff.
We
There's
could
a lot of it.
use a lot of it.
Yeah.
So do y'all want me to,
Experienced manager of human resources, is proficient in verbal, written communication.
oh, that's what the characteristics, the Fountain Lake School Superintendent will be.
Right, the qualifications are there, the position, the district.
We don't wanna plagiarize what they're saying,
We-
but
we
yes,
don't
there's a
wanna-
lot of really good information here. Yeah, there's a lot of really good information.
I think these are great ideas, Dana, that you came up with.
Yes, and I do, no,
You worded it
honestly,
really good.
I do think we can take this information. Oh, coming. Oh, there you are.
Yeah, it's just, I looked and I was pretty sure there wasn't any way
To
to
remove,
remove
or,
anything.
but you can add other things that we wanna ask for as attachments.
yes. And
Okay.
so like there's a job description box
Yes, which we're working on now.
you're working on now, I can copy and paste whatever you develop
Yep.
into that box. And then that goes right under the title.
Yep.
And so whatever you want in that job description box.
Is that box,
Unlimited as
and,
far as I know.
it's just, text, it's not photos,
Yeah.
it's just verbiage?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was an
Can we
attachment.
cut and paste and put pictures in there?
I never have.
No,
'cause
and that's okay.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if it was something like you could put an attachment in there and say, open the attachment, and that tells you about the job.
It's not like a Google form.
Okay.
So that I
It's
could
flat.
put like a link or anything like that in.
It's just flat words.
Yes.
Okay,
So I can put as many words in it as
Okay.
you,
and we're
as
gonna,
you want.
that's what we're doing, is we're
Okay.
working on coming up with something that you can put in the description, we're
Mhm.
coming up with a salary range, and then we're gonna get all that finalized, and I'll be getting that to you.
Yeah.
So, we're good with not changing
Okay.
anything on the app.
Okay.
we're just
I
gonna ask
wanted to let
for-
you know I checked. and
Good, thank
I just
you.
couldn't see it. I went to all my configure spots and
Yeah.
couldn't see.
We
And
kinda
those
figured-
applications are pretty standard. I knew that from anybody who uses that system.
Yeah,
That's what the application is gonna
Look
look
like.
like.
yeah,
And in large part because if I went in and set up my little test account, and it's the
Yes.
first time I'd ever been on that side of the system, because I
Uh-huh.
couldn't apply anywhere since that system
Yeah.
existed. And, but I do know that folks can access their account that they set up as an applicant is not specific to Fountain Lake. So
So-
if they go to Hot Springs, and Hot Springs is using the same
they can actually
Count and
upload the
system
same app
to
to,
a
or,
specific job in another
because they're
district.
standardized.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
And we will have, target having something to you by the end of the week,
Okay. That's-
or even
problem.
in a day or two. Yeah,
All right.
thank you for
Thank
checking
you.
on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt.
No, no problem at all.
I'm heading out.
Okay, have a
Let
good
us know
night.
anything.
We're good.
All right.
Thank you.
See ya.
I think the
So why don't
description,
y'all,
the description of the community is good here.
I like the community, I think, do we need to mention the village, we need to mention,
I think you
in
can
between the
draft
village
the
and
whole
Hot
thing
Springs
based
Village.
off this PDF.
Yeah.
yeah, I think so too.
Did you see how quick the timeline, which they
I
put
looked
at
it?
it. I
They
did.
put
Where?
the
I
time-
ain't gotten down
they
there.
put the
Last
timeline-
page.
They put the timeline in their brochure. Now,
Okay.
that makes it a little bit more in concrete.
Application deadline February, finalists selected by March 10th.
But with the way we're doing
They must
it,
have been vetting as applications were coming.
they
in.
were, but that's what they do for I
Right.
mean, they had the time all day long to do it, so.
Wonder when they opened this up. Do you know a
I
date?
can't remember, but I know we can't tag dates, but like Cindy was talking about, nobody was really wondering because they selected finalists. The next week they interviewed them and they picked the week after that. So there
Yeah, so-
wasn't a lot of hanging period of do I know or not, you know, if I got it.
Are we putting qualifications in there?
What do you mean?
What,
Like what we desire.
In a superintendent?
Where-
In the
where-
description?
Where are we putting that at?
In the description?
We are gonna put it in there, okay.
Yeah, the qualifications we're looking for. Just gives them an idea of, you know,
So, we need to narrow that down.
yes, and if we want to take this document and
Did you
wordsmith it.
see the ones in that PDF?
Oh, you hadn't opened your email.
I haven't opened that one. I mean, I'm looking at this.
Oh, okay, you're seeing it then.
But I did look at, something else and it was talking about, it was just another job posting, talking about a bachelor's required, master's required.
Gotcha. Oh, are we gonna talk about degree requirements?
Yeah, are we gonna,
No, because
But we don't wanna lock ourselves out of some, we don't want to
exclude.
open it. We want someone to carry the superintendent certificate with them.
Right.
When they come in, so as a qualification, I would think
that's gotta,
they either have to currently have a superintendent's endorsement in Arkansas or be able to provide proof that they'll have it by July 1st.
Yeah, provide a finish date.
Like, do they
finish date,
have to
yeah.
have that
I would
to be
think,
a superintendent?
yes, you have to have a superintendent's certificate,
Okay.
you have to.
Yeah.
I didn't know if that was just like an extra thing you
No,
did,
no,
like,
no,
like,
you
No,
have-
but he is right. You can get the job without it as long as you
can
finish the
finish
work.
it.
But if we don't, then we've gotta get a waiver from the state.
Mm.
And we, just like we get a waiver for a principal who doesn't carry the current certification,
Well,
we don't wanna have a waiver for our superintendent.
no,
We-
they wanna,
but you
they
know,
need-
people applying are gonna know that they have to have that.
Right,
Yeah.
or they know they're gonna have it completed by
Yeah.
some people may be in their graduate work.
well, how long does it take to get that? I mean,
Well, it's based on, you're finishing your college experience, you're gonna have a specialist probably at least. Or, maybe you can do it in Arkansas with a master's, but, if you're coming from out of state, you're gonna have to show proof that you're applying for it. You're gonna have a couple of years' experience, I don't know all the qualifications for Arkansas.
No, in Arkansas, you can do it with just a master's.
Okay, you can with
And
masters.
you don't have to have any previous admin.
No, but you have to have some experience in education.
Yes, no, you have to have it, you have to have worked so many years in education. Because like I said, I know we have a couple teachers who already have that certificate, even though they're not maybe ready for the job.
I understand,
Yeah,
But they just got a master's and then put in their years.
and they got their endorsement.
Yes.
okay, so, what we wanna do is take some of this information here. I don't know how that timeline was so short. Like,
Well, yeah, but keep in mind again, remember, that's all that company does, so they
I mean,
they're
that was-
vetting all
Well,
day
and
long.
also look at when that timeline was. It's in February. You wanna get your superintendent. That timeline might have changed. They're getting it in March, their superintendent.
yeah.
That timeline might have changed if they had as much time as we had.
Mm-hmm.
and they also set an application deadline, so they might have opened it in November, and they're vetting all the way up until
That's correct.
the deadline of February 25th, and they may only have 6 more to go after that. They can make a selection within 2 weeks. They can interview and have a selection.
So, let's revisit that, closing it, a deadline, an application deadline. Because if I'm applying for the job and I see that application deadline is this date, I'll go ahead and get mine in, but I'm really not expecting to hear from them until it closes, right? Because
Right.
I know they're waiting until they get all their applications in on X date. So,
But it-
because
like-
we,
Like Lloyd said, if they see that end date, because I tell you, they're gonna wait till, they may wait till the last minute,
They're gonna push the button.
and then you got 50 applicants on January 8th.
It looks to me like this timeline by this company was 3 weeks to vet their applicants. From the end of the deadline, from the application deadline to
They
when
were
the
probably
finalists were
vetting up
selected.
Till the
until-
They
interview.
probably were, but they had 3 weeks from the deadline
to get somebody in here.
Yeah, to
to
get-
get their finalists selected.
to do their interviews.
Yes.
Um,
See, I like having a deadline because then people just, like I said, if you leave it, open.
But then do they wait around and not apply until the last minute? We don't need them to wait.
I understand what, yeah.
There's,
I say leave it open until filled.
okay, and we can do that.
Do
But
that.
what we'll do is we will publish in this intro our timeline so that that they will understand, because we are 5 people doing all the vetting, and,
Yeah.
you know, they'll
Yeah,
understand.
you could put something in there about our timeline is that
Well, you
open
can put it,
application.
you can put in there finalists selected by, or
Yes,
whatever.
finalists selected by such and such a date.
Yes.
And also, when we get to the well, we're not gonna talk about that tonight. Okay, there'll be a whole nother conversation about interviews, so we're not gonna get into that
But there is some
tonight.
good information on this.
Okay, so how about I take this information and I'll wordsmith it, to pull out what's pertinent for us right now. As you look at qualifications for the candidate, which is on page 2. Bless you.
Did you say chewy?
She said, chewy.
That was a sneeze.
So look at those qualifications and talk about if you think there's something that needs to be added or removed from that
I
description.
just got accountability.
Wha-
I feel like it has to be in there somewhere.
Accountability
Mhm.
in what way? Elaborate. Accountability to whom, for what?
Well, I mean, we're supposed to be there.
Academic accountability.
Well, I'm not sure how to say it. Be careful.
I know. Yeah, we can't, we don't
Um,
talk about specifics.
No, but
But in general,
just reading some of this stuff, you know,
I mean, they will obviously have accountability to the board. So that's
I think
a,
he's
Ultimately, yes.
holding-
that's a
You're
given
talking
because it's
about
the law.
holding-
about hold people accountable.
Oh.
Like,
Oh,
Like not afraid to
okay.
yeah, they can't be afraid to hold people accountable.
Willing to make the tough decisions.
Yes.
There you go.
have difficult conversations.
Are willing to have difficult conversations.
I see what you're saying, I'm totally with
Okay.
that for sure.
And I don't know how you wanna phrase it, but I understand where you're going.
I'm gonna write that down.
And that is also something that we can talk more about in an interview.
You bet.
An example of,
When did you have to make that tough
yeah,
decision?
when did you have to make a tough decision? Tell us about it.
Yes, and that definitely needs to be part of
Yeah.
our interview. So when we meet to talk about the interview,
Yeah,
we'll come up with our own questions that will,
And
you
we'll
know,
make sure that those questions
are legal.
are
We'll
legal.
run them by legal before we do it. But anyway, I will add that to the qualifications.
At the end of that disclaimer, there's or at the end of this PDF, there's a disclaimer,
Yes.
and I like that, where they're asked not to
Contact
contact
the
the
board
board,
members.
and any effort to do so may eliminate you. And then also, we will comply, everything will be in strict confidence whenever possible. However, we're going to follow follow Arkansas State Freedom of Information Law, or however.
Okay.
You know, I just like something like that
And-
because,
Look,
I think what we will put in there is, if you have any specific questions, I will have them direct them to me.
right,
Right.
Sure.
And again,
So
that
that
was
way-
a search firm, so that they're gonna say that.
they're gonna
Because-
say that, right.
Because
Yep.
they did say in there,
Right there.
if you
Yes,
have,
where'd you find that
I was
uh,
looking online.
Oh,
so they put their email,
Right.
read it out loud.
and, you know,
Dana, something like this is just getting on the internet and searching stuff.
okay,
But
okay.
like, one of the more challenging aspects of being a superintendent is having to make the hard decisions. You know, this says, well, when faced with conflicting goals, you may have to
Cut staffing.
cut staffing,
Right. It's
Moves
just
people
hard
around.
decisions.
the hard
That's
decisions.
just day-to-day decision, day-to-day decision making.
Yes. Okay, so, did you just Google?
Yeah, it's just,
Googling? So is that a
Are you
Google
wanting
link?
that in
We're
there
gonna
or
send
an
you-
interview?
we're
No,
gonna
I'm
send
just
you some-
saying-
I'll send you some examples of things.
Copy a
there's just
Google
different
link
things that,
or something,
you know,
and,
about making the hard decisions.
and then I'll try to incorporate that
I
into there.
definitely
And that
wanna
could
know
be-
they can do that.
And that could be in the interview.
It will come out more in the interview, but
Yeah.
we want to be able to explain what kind of person we're looking for, like,
Mhm.
okay, so, you know, these are all, and here's my struggle with this. When you're trying to describe the qualifications, this is going to look like every other school district
Yep.
that's looking for a superintendent.
Hey, I wonder,
Financial leader, a
But-
good communicator.
hold on before we go on, cause it did get us off track, but since he said, I wonder if we could add something like that too to the references. Do you have an example of when they made a hard decision?
Oh, you bet you can.
I mean, even though it's not on our form, we could add that right there to them too, cause
Yeah.
somebody might say, oh, yeah, he's never been able to
Yeah, you
hold
might,
anybody to the fire or.
yeah.
But when you going
Sure.
back to your train of thought, Dana, what do you see as the number one, other than the number one skill that you would want a superintendent to have? You know, finances drives a lot of wagons.
Mhm.
It formulates a lot of programs. If you don't have the finances, you can't have the programs.
Yeah, but we're in
I
a
think there's a lot. I
stage,
think it's
we are in a
community.
stage of academic challenges
Oh, yeah.
where I personally want somebody that's really, really strong on the academic front.
Then we need to put that in, and I agree.
That is in a maybe not total agreement with the LEARNS Act, but is open and willing to work with the LEARNS Act because it's the law now, and,
How do you move a district that's making Cs to Bs?
How do you, how do you move the needle?
How do you move the needle?
yeah, we want somebody that can do that.
Hey,
But is that a question we ask in an interview or put the qualifications?
Well,
And I'm asking, I mean,
and you know what, if I
I
said,
think
if
that's
somebody
interview.
was, okay, let's say
Yes,
that my
you can talk
because
strength,
about-
everybody's gonna think they've got these skills.
well, let's say that my strength is I came from a classroom teacher and I feel like I'm really competent in teaching, and I read the qualifications and it says, we need somebody that's good at human resources, that's good at making hiring decisions, or that's great with budgets and money. It may scare me off if I don't feel like that's my competency area, and vice versa. If my competency is in human resources or something, and I say I need a strong, somebody who's got a strong academic, I don't know. I mean, I'm not an educator, so this is a hard thing for me to quantify with words.
But what you're telling me is that you see that one of our number one priorities should
For
be our
me.
academics.
For me, that is what
Well,
I see.
I think we all concur, because that's a conversation we had 6 months ago
Yes,
when we talked about the evaluation of the current superintendent.
yeah, that was just a comment that
We talked about.
the board as a whole wants to be more academically focused, and with the LEARNS Act, it's now
Come on,
become a requirement
I
for
understand.
the board to be more academically. But we don't wanna hire somebody that is, opposed to the LEARNS Act.
So,
You don't want somebody that's
Right.
gonna come in here and just be negative,
uh,
negative.
but,
No,
so.
they need
so
to embrace it.
I think going back to what Tony said then, we don't want to exclude someone who maybe does not have superintendent experience if they're a strong educational leader as
Oh,
a
no,
principal.
I don't think
Right,
we were excluding.
correct.
Right,
Correct,
because these other skills may be able to be acquired
yes,
a lot easier than moving the needle.
yes, that's the big challenge.
Mhm.
You
I mean,
know.
they can learn budgeting, or they can,
Well, they should have a basic knowledge of that with the school superintendent certificate.
yeah,
Look, and I don't mean this, I think we've had very good financial management, but
We
I
have.
think a strong candidate that is from Arkansas can pick that part up.
yes,
If
Yes.
they're a strong candidate, they will figure out our formulas, all of that.
yes,
Their,
yes.
their challenge is
They'll
gonna
be
be for a lot of
familiar.
people, a lot of superintendents coming in here, their biggest challenge on the finance side of it is working with our village and realizing that, you know, we draw little or no state aid through
Correct.
the foundation. And that's gonna be the biggest challenge
That'll
they're
be
gonna have to learn.
from wherever they're coming from, because
Where-
they will be accustomed to getting money from the
From
state.
They're gonna
and-
be used to getting state funds.
Right,
Right.
so that'll be the challenge, but financially, we are in great shape. I mean, Dr. Murphy has put us in good shape, and our facilities are in good shape, so we're not facing, it's not like,
Academically,
but, you know, we do have some academic challenges,
Mhm.
not Dr. Murphy's fault, I'm not saying
no,
that.
that's where we are.
I'm just saying, it's time now to bring the focus, especially with the LEARNS Act, because there are some big challenges in LEARNS that are going to require some really different
So
things.
taking the qualification to the very first bullet line,
Yes,
how do we phrase that about moving the needle? Because it talks about academic and instructional leader
uh-huh,
who will actively provide feedback in a constructive manner to the staff to ensure high academic achievement. Or excellent. So
and that's just a bunch of words.
it is, but how do we stress that we're talking about moving the needle?
You tell them,
Yeah, I know we tell them, but
put it in there, just.
We talk like
You-
regular people and not like academia.
well, anybody that applies for this job should do their homework. They should know more about Fountain Lake School than any one of us sitting around this table. Now, they may not know the Smiths and the Joneses, but they should know about our millage. They should know about our tax base. They should know about our academic performance. They should know about our student-to-debt ratio.
Yeah,
And they're gonna come in with that information if they're worth their salt.
yes.
And
But I
so,
think they need to know where the board's focus is gonna be.
where our priorities gonna be.
That's right. And maybe
What?
we wordsmith it that way and talk about the board's priorities going
There you go.
forward are, you know, academically, how to move the
But it
needle.
all
And-
comes down to them being a good leader, because it's
Mhm.
not like they're gonna push the needle.
No, but it says
It's
right
being
there,
a good
but
leader and
here's,
communicating it to your leadership.
if you think about
team.
that top bullet, and you really read it,
Uh-huh.
an academic and instructional leader who will actively provide feedback in a constructive
There it
manner
is.
to the staff
There it is.
to ensure academic achievement.
So it all comes back to leadership,
Comes
communication,
back to the
all of the
right,
things.
right there. That, you have to be actively providing feedback to your staff.
So in our interview with whoever we talk to,
And back to having different.
the question's gonna be
conversations.
is, what have you done as an academic or instructional leader in your district to move the needle? To improve student scores?
Yeah, I mean,
Well-
that's got to be our focus
Right.
moving forward, is academic achievement. And moving kids out of a place
And
of,
it looks like it was last time. And the second one was a competent financial manager.
Mhm.
I mean,
So, I'm gonna wordsmith that
mhm.
Yes.
and come up with something that will be more representative of what the five of us have talked about on a continuous basis. The things that we are looking for. So it's gonna incorporate some of those elements, but it'll be in our
Yeah.
mode, you know? Because sometimes you read stuff like that and you're like, I don't know who did that, but it's just a bunch of, it's
Bunch
the
of
same kind of words that you get that just, everybody says those things.
Everybody says your school superintendent's the instructional leader in your district.
You know, and
Everybody says that. The principles are where the instruction takes place.
Mhm.
And how do you make sure as a superintendent that you've got good leadership there?
So I'll do that. I'll put some of that together. Now let's talk about one more thing and then we're gonna be done by 7, because it's
Yes.
6:45.
On that
Salary.
too, though,
Yes,
moving
yes,
forward
salary.
as a board, we've been pretty serious about that. We gotta keep in mind, we have to hold this person accountable for that.
That's right.
That's our job from this point forward.
That is correct,
To be serious, like, hey, you ain't moving the needle.
yeah.
So-
And not wait, and do it
So-
every year or every 6
Right.
months, but do
So
it.
instead of every board meeting we need to continue to have our financial picture brought forward, but what's our academic picture? look
Well, and
like?
I was just gonna bring that up. In the LEARNS Act, It mandates
It will have to be,
that you
yeah.
have academic discussion in each board meeting.
Right, and that's what I'm saying.
And
Yeah, it's
you
gonna have to be tailored
Right.
in there.
And when you write the superintendent's contract, even if Dr. Murphy were staying, we would have to rewrite his contract this year because it has to include goals for that person.
Yeah.
That has to be in their contract. So there is just definitely a different focus coming down the pipe. So I will do this as, I'll do this tomorrow, work on it and shoot y'all something on email. Let's talk about the salary range, and then we will conclude our meeting for the night. I know Brian had gotten some data, and Dr. Murphy actually sent me an email today with some, I think it's got similar information, but let me just
Did you
pull
go
it
out
up.
and talk to Beckwith?
He got some information
I was
Uh-huh.
able to,
from Dawson.
from Dawson to get, based on enrollment numbers, that sheet on there shows all the, shows
So,
number of students, and that's all
Was
within
that
kind
an
of.
email you sent to us?
Yeah, it was,
yes,
What day?
what day was that?
that was, hang on,
I
let me go
just
back.
pulled it up, so.
I know, yours will be in your sent mail, so
Yeah.
let me go back. That was on, I'm scrolling.
September 15th.
Wow, you're faster than me. Okay.
And
Yeah,
you'll have an attachment that's an Excel spreadsheet.
Okay, let me see.
it'll be down at the very bottom.
Oh, I
Yeah.
saw it, I don't think I deleted it.
I can forward,
Please do, someone
This to you.
resend it to me.
and I think it's the exact same list that Murphy had gotten from. All right, so let me just, because it's a,
Probably already had it, cause I got it generated, and they just.
yeah, so they
Yeah.
probably just forwarded it to him.
Yeah.
So let me
Is
send
this
it to you.
current 2023?
This is current
Current year.
year.
So Cindy,
I
do
know
you
I
have
looked at
yours?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so.
Well,
we'll-
actually, no, this was, I think this is a year behind, but it's,
It's on its way to you, Lloyd.
I mean, it's fairly current. It would be maybe last school year.
So 103 to 160 is
Yeah,
what this is.
and,
The lowest to the highest.
What does the number to the right mean, do y'all know?
Where?
The average
The eight.
salary of, just the assistant average
Thank
salary?
you.
Like, why do we have a number there and we don't have an assistant, but other schools?
that's Campbell's.
That's Campbell. He's,
Oh, he's listed as the assistant superintendent, I got you.
So if we're looking at, just the superintendent, and let me make this comment since that does show up there. Lloyd, the one I just forwarded you just has the superintendents, it doesn't have the assistants.
Right, that's okay.
But let me just make this note. With the LEARNS Act, school boards, so previously, the school boards could only hire the superintendent. If there was an assistant, that was the superintendent's job to hire or, recommend for hiring. School boards now have the option and the authority to hire both a super and an assistant super. Put them both on contracts like the superintendent, not just a salary schedule like they would be in a certified. So
Really?
bearing that in mind,
Different.
because,
Sorry, go ahead.
anyway, we have that ability
I
now.
thought about that the other day, I would be in favor, I know it's a lot of money of hiring an assistant superintendent.
But it could be something, and the only reason I say that, what if you get, that's for later.
Yeah,
Okay,
But
let's just stick to what a
on that,
superintendent salary range right now.
On the assistant deal, is that like, you would set goals for them just like you would,
Yes,
okay,
yes.
not the same goals?
It could be the same or it
I
could be
think you would
different.
work with both of them at who's best at
Right.
what that assistant will
So you
take
could
over
even-
as their goal.
So I'm not saying it would have to be somebody from the outside. I'm just saying you
Right.
could take a person and make them officially the assistant superintendent and put them on a contract just like your superintendent is on a contract. And I just wanted to bring that to your
Yeah.
attention because not that we are in that market at all, but it's a thing you need to park in the back of your brain.
Yep. So
So
we're throwing out a dollar amount, is that what we're doing? No.
Mhm.
we're not
right
doing
now, we are for the
Yeah.
superintendent. We need to put a range on the job description.
that. Oh.
And we also
Mr.
need-
Campbell was showing us before you got here, the front page of the listing,
Mm.
where we have room to put all the verbiage, and then at the bottom, there is a salary range that you list, a minimum,
Minimum and maximum.
a min, and a max.
And also, we need to talk about other fringe benefits.
Mhm.
Right, as part of this. Now, there's nowhere to list that,
So that's in the discussion of the interview.
I guess
Or when
so.
we do the salary
Or
or
if they,
contract negotiation.
or somebody that's applying may reach out and ask, you
Because
know,
right now,
I see the salary, but are there
We provide
fringe?
a vehicle for school functions.
Yeah,
No.
no, we
Oh,
provide
that's
him a
personal
vehicle
use.
24/7.
Okay,
That's his vehicle.
That's why we were saying that,
But
does he, but,
that benefit is a huge
But
benefit.
but
Yeah.
what is,
Okay,
So-
now, remember,
but we're
If
talking
it
about,
gets
we're
into-
talking about the vehicle.
we're
not
talking about the fringe benefits. We are
Right.
not talking about
The person.
the person,
No, I'm not talking about the person.
Right.
My thought was that vehicle's his, to go to school functions 24/7, but it's so on a weekend.
oh no, it's
You're
his.
saying right now, we do not restrict,
No.
under the
No.
current fringe benefits, if he wants to drive that vehicle to Lake Ouachita, go fishing.
Oh, no, that's
has that
his.
always been a thing though? 'Cause
Yeah.
what was even before?
We had another vehicle. I don't remember, it was,
There was another one before that.
was it like a
Another
Chevy
vehicle.
Equinox? No.
Yeah, we bought the current vehicle, but anyway, I don't know if the previous superintendent, I don't know what his fringe benefits were. So I can't speak to
I
whether or
would
not
think
he
that's the
had a
biggest
vehicle
fringe
provided.
benefit he has.
But that's a big, huge fringe
Personal
benefit,
use.
I think 125,
which
no
is,
experience.
covers gas, maintenance,
Yeah.
insurance,
Tires.
125.
everything.
I mean, that's a big,
Start
big
and
benefit.
It is, and we can't list that in the job description.
No.
But we need to decide
If it's gonna be part of it.
Well, I don't,
if we're gonna consider it, because if somebody reaches out to me as they apply and says, I see this range, can you tell me if there are fringe benefits? And somebody might do that, I don't know if they would or not.
I wonder if you can legally just respond, negotiable. Depending on.
I'd put a wide range. I mean, you have to have a good MRV, but, I mean,
On the salary,
yeah, I mean, cause if you got somebody that's, like, doesn't have any experience whatsoever,
We can't start them at where we're at.
yeah, you can't start them with where they're at, but
is our max gonna be what is currently being paid? Or are you
that's
going,
up for negotiable.
are we willing to go above that? I don't, we need to decide, let's decide what our min is. What's the
I say
minimum?
125 to 145.
So your minimum would be 125. And,
I'm really close to you. Well, I like the 125 as a minimum.
okay,
I was thinking more 140 for the max, but that's, if we're putting a vehicle out there,
I was
Well,
thinking more
but-
minimum 115-ish.
yeah.
so we could, as a board, say, so, we need to think about that. Because if we set let's say we set our max at 150,
Everybody thinks they're entitled to 150.
No,
and then they want fringe benefits.
Yeah, I know.
So if
If you're talking about current benefits, that's a lot of money.
so
Well,
if,
that's why I went 125 to 140. And personally, and here's why I went to 125,
tell me,
okay? If you're a,
because you read Cindy's mind.
no,
Yes.
no.
Yeah.
If you're
Cheater.
in a position as a high school principal,
Uh-huh.
working 200 and whatever days, you're probably making 95 to 100. You're gonna ask me to move, you're gonna ask me to relocate my family, and I'm gonna get a $5,000 raise.
And take on a whole lot more
And
responsibility.
take on a whole lot more responsibility.
I just
Yeah.
think it's expensive to live,
You know,
Yeah.
they've gotta find a place to live.
24 hours a day.
And you know, we haven't even talked about that. Are we gonna require them to live in the district? You know, I mean, we as a board can make that decision.
Yeah.
You know, so, and of course, that locks them into Fountain Lake or the village. I mean,
Right.
which there's housing in the village, but it's not,
Let me-
not the most affordable, some of it.
If I can comment on that, just from like the last time, it's very hard to have a superintendent, especially campaigning for tax issues, that doesn't even pay the school tax.
Oh, I agree.
Well, that's
I'm a firm believer that you should live in the district
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
paying
that's
your
a
sa-
tough sell to go, oh, I mean, it doesn't affect me, but I want you to do it.
But I want you to pay.
I'm a firm believer as a superintendent, you should live in the district where you're getting
I
your
think
salary.
to me, it's a requirement.
Yeah.
Okay,
But-
so we need to
But then
list
that takes
that.
us back, if you're making $95,000
Well, when we
a
talk
year
to
and then we're
contract
asking you to move
negotiation, we
too.
can always say, as a requirement of this job, we're requiring you to live in the district. Do you think you would be comfortable, because they may think they're gonna live in Hot Springs on Lake Hamilton.
That's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
do we even, do we not just stop
I
them
think
at the
that's gonna
qualifications? Or the
I'm gonna write that
requirements?
down, and I don't know if I can
Maybe
work
talk
that
to
in.
Tony, maybe talk to Tony about that, you know, I'd like for him to live in the district.
Mhm.
You know, if it's
Yeah, I
good
mean,
enough for us, it ought to be
Ultimately,
good
that's
enough
our
for them.
decision.
I have a hard time voting for somebody that didn't, just based on what I just told you.
Yeah, I agree, I mean,
Okay, so, do we feel like 125 is a good floor?
I do.
Yeah, that's a good minimum, but I'm, like, depending on what they bring to the table, I'm not stuck at 140.
Well, I'm not
I mean-
either, I'm not stuck at that, but I
But
think
the
it
higher we
gives you.
go, you gotta really think hard on the fringe.
No, I know, and it's negotiable, I mean, that's
145.
a minimum 12,000 a year, right
Mhm.
there. And then you count, insurance, everything, that's more than that.
Mhm.
So you're looking at 15 to
Yeah, that's well worth 15 grand.
Yeah,
15, if not more. So,
so you can set a max, no, it's just SSC. So you can set a max, and then that will just have to be negotiated. That we won't address the fringe at all in the application process. That
Yeah,
will
you
come
know, I
down
agree.
to,
Yeah.
I agree.
okay, so
That's
what,
why I said if they call you, you can say, that's a negotiable item.
Well, you know, what you could simply say, and it's truthful, is we're currently providing the superintendent a vehicle, but that's gonna be discussed with the board in our our finalists.
right,
do you have to put a max?
I think you'll lose a lot of people if you don't.
yeah, I think if you just put a min, they're gonna think that's what you're offering.
They may think they're only gonna get 5,000 above that.
Yeah.
You know, I think you need to put a max. And if you look at that worksheet, where salaries for districts in our size range, I mean, there's a big range. There's
Was that a
like-
year ago or this
I
year?
think that's last school year.
Is that on here? Is that in here?
No, it's the current year, cause it shows Dr. Murphy's at 141.
Oh, that's
Oh, it does?
Mhm.
I was thinking it was different. Oh, that's this year.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, 1294 enrollment, that's this
Yeah.
year. Yeah.
so it's the current year. But that you see the ranges,
With what they have said and based on those enrollment numbers, that is a very attractive range for a school our size.
yeah,
Very.
because in this list of how many are on there, 20-ish?
Well, it goes down to 103 at one.
How many of them are below 125? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So fully half up 12. 12 out of 21 are below 125 for the superintendent.
And you really only got one or two that's over what we are right
Well, and who wants to live in Helena?
now. No.
You've got Ashdown that's higher, and then you've got Helena, West Helena, which I understand the
They have
challenges
to
there.
pay.
Just to attract someone over
Right.
there.
They have
Because
to pay,
That's
yes.
a struggling district, but
Mm.
really Murphy's the third highest paid
You-
in,
I would say 125 to 145.
I guess actually the good thing about a range too is
What'd you say?
you
What did he say?
eliminate somebody
Oh,
that looks and
you
guys
says,
are being
not for me.
What'd you say?
well,
One
you're
forty.
not, the Lake Hamilton
Okay,
superintendent,
At 145.
I'm saying Lake
Yeah, I'm-
Hamilton, I'm just
Those
using.
types are not going.
They're not
no.
gonna come to, we're
No,
gonna
you-
get some
So
of
I'm saying you
these,
don't have to vet extra people because they'll look at that and go, well, I'm not gonna go for that. I mean,
you
Yeah,
know. But you're gonna get some of these that might apply, you're gonna get some principals
Yes,
that might apply.
yes.
So
What's the average you think we're gonna get to apply?
the average what?
How many people do you think are gonna apply for this job?
How many
I
people?
think 15.
I say
Really?
8 to 10.
15.
I was gonna say 8.
I think we'll get a minimum of 8, maybe up to 12.
How many do you
Over or
think?
under?
I said 8 to 10.
Start a
Right
pool.
now.
What'd you say?
15.
15.
I mean, I know.
And it's an attractive
Can I
district.
put in for
Yeah.
it? Cause I can add to that number and get you
I
back
mean-
15.
There you go, girl.
I know of 4.
If we're at 14, I'll throw my name in.
What'd you say?
8 to 10.
8 to 10.
If we're at
Well, we
14,
may
I'm
be
throwing
going
my
for
name
that
in
number.
for
What-
Corey
what's
just
your
to get the
guess?
number.
Yeah, what's your guess?
Corey, what's yours?
He's gonna come up with some silly number. 22.
I bet you're gonna have 20 plus.
Oh,
This is an
Well,
attractive district.
it
It's an
very,
attractive area.
actually, it is possible
Oh,
because we're
Lord.
not eliminating it down to only superintendent. So he could be right. I mean,
You can get some
You'll have some
principals.
aspiring principals
Yeah.
applying,
Yeah,
or not aspiring principals, aspiring superintendents that are principals.
I mean, he's right, and I just told you, it ain't even open. I know of 4 that are applying and are posted.
yeah.
Yeah.
125
So-
to 45,
Anyway.
145, here we go.
Dinner's
Okay.
on y'all 4.
125 to 145. Is everybody comfortable with that range?
I'm comfortable.
And then any fringes would have to be negotiated at the time we sit down
At
and
the
make
time
an
we
offer.
negotiate.
I would
Right, because
just
once
say-
we determine a pay, we
Yes.
may back off that fringe.
We can construct fringe benefits in 1,000 ways.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Now, you can't pay for insurance, right?
health insurance.
Health insurance.
Right, that is correct.
Well,
There are
he
things
said
we
you gotta
can-
be careful, you
Now-
can, but you can't if
now,
you're not
one thing-
willing to do it
For
for
everybody.
everybody.
Let me throw this out, because it was a factor for Murphy, I'm sure. A lot of superintendents' spouses
Uh-huh,
are educators,
yes.
Mhm.
so that's something to think about, so
And that's usually a courtesy thing you do.
if we have a position, and that's one good thing about filling the job early,
Yes.
those positions will come open later. If we were filling this late, you'd wanna keep those positions open
Mhm.
until you get your superintendent, because that may be the one factor that brings your
They
superintendent.
could have a spouse also in education.
Right, so,
So-
cause Murphy
Could
brought
be.
his wife, she got certification as a librarian, I don't know if Ginger was a librarian before she came here or not.
But that is a consideration, that, it's usually a courtesy thing that you do employ the spouse.
And most
You
of them
can.
will have that.
Yeah,
You're
so
right.
we just need to be prepared for that. Sometimes I used to keep elementary positions open until I hired a principal sometimes, just because that was the one way to get my candidate, was to hire their wife also.
Yep. Okay, 125 to 145, and we feel good about that range. And I'm gonna wordsmith the intro, the job description, and send y'all something tomorrow. And I got us close to 7 at 7:04. Is there anything else?
So the next thing is, you are gonna get a document from you. We're
Yeah.
gonna open the applications on the 23rd, and we're gonna talk about them on the 13th.
That is correct. All right.
I took good
Meeting
notes.
is adjourned.
Slam that hand